Hey, what's up, guys? Today I want to make a video about my favorite topic, which is about superheroes and especially Batman, and how you can learn a lot of things from Batman, but also there are certain things you should not do what Batman does. And I'm gonna break down the character of Batman in the next few minutes and also help you understand, I think, why he's such an inspiring character. Okay, but also why he has certain values which don't work for him and how you can avoid them and live a happy, free, and exciting life. Cool. All right, so let's get into it. The reason I chose Batman is because whenever I'm down, I'm feeling like really fucked up, I choose to watch the movie The Dark Knight. Now, why that movie? Because that movie is actually the movie where the whole trilogy, the Batman trilogy, kind of shifts gears. In the first one, he's kind of forming Christopher Nolan is like trying to form the character of Batman. He's explaining how he became Batman, and how he's gonna fight the criminals. But in the part two, which is the Dark Knight Rises, he ends up exploring this idea that what Batman is not good enough at that juncture. When Joker meets Batman, who Batman is not enough. Whoa, that was an important realization for me, where there is a scene where the butler, uh, I forget his name, but then the butler walks in, and Batman is kind of like disappointed that everybody is being killed by Joker, and he's threatening the Gotham City. That's when Batman says, you know what, and Rachel dies, right? Like Rachel just dies, and he ends up rescuing Harvey Dent instead of Rachel. That's when Batman realizes this is something I can't do anymore. He realizes that he realizes his limits, what his limits are because of his moral code, right? And his own inability to fight crime, at the same time break his values. So I'll give you the specific lesson I got from that instance. The number one thing I got was, sometimes you have to be the bad guy, sometimes you have to take the evil exit for the better of yourself and other people. What do I mean by that? In the movie, Batman decides to show himself and unmask himself as Bruce Wayne. But when Harvey Dent steps in and says, I am the Batman, he doesn't stop him. He doesn't go out and say, no, 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 he's not the Batman. I can prove it. I am the Batman. He realizes that he was making a mistake giving in to Joker's, strategy of breaking him down, right? He still accepts to be the bad guy, to be the villain in the movie. And what I really like about the ending, if you notice, I really want you to watch the ending. If you're a Batman fan, you will remember this. He says that after he, rescues the, Inspector Gordon, the Commissioner Gordon, he says that, make me the villain, tell them that I killed Harvey Dent, tell them that I've done all this shit, because Gotham City doesn't need, a vigilante. And I'm feeling like so excited even to say this. I'll be what Gotham needs right now, and what Gotham needs is to ostracize me, to kind of make me the bad guy, and I can be that guy. I can be that guy who did all these things, and yet you know uh, be the Dark Knight which watches over this city and still loves the city. Wow, that was an amazing ending to that movie, because he's willing to be the bad guy, he's willing to take the pain to be to actually create good for others. Now, how does that apply in your life? That applies in this way that, can you stand up for what's right and not worry about what other people think of you? Because in his case, of course, he's the Batman, but people were saying Batman is bad in that movie, right? Like at the end, he ends up being the villain of that movie, right? and he ends up being a loser, and people are still looking for Batman. If you go into the third part, in the beginning, when Dark Knight Rises movie, people are still looking for Batman as the number one vigilante, even though he has done so much good. So you will be in a scenarios where you have done so much for someone, or so much for your family, so much for your organization, but yet people will not get it. And it's okay, because it's up to you to live to your standards and do the right thing. That's number one thing. The other thing I really like about Batman, which maybe people did not realize, is discipline, guys. Oh my god. If you notice, even in the movie, the first movie as well as the second movie, Batman is not born, he was made. Of course, his childhood experience was a trigger, was a catalyst, but he converted his fear of bats, he converted his fear of criminals and anger towards criminals into this positive direction where he became a vigilante and started like attacking crime directly. And the one thing I really like about Batman is he chose discipline over, reactions and vengeance. He has vengeance, but it's very focused and disciplined. He has so much vengeance, and actually the next movie 2021 is about that, right? Like, if you see the trailer too, I highly recommend you watch the new Batman trailer. He says that, who are you? Like, in one of the scenes in the trailer is, who are you? Like, he's like, I'm vengeance. It's fucking awesome. I highly recommend you see that. But coming back to what Batman does in the three trilogy, the Christopher Nolan trilogy, he builds self-discipline. If you notice, even the first part, he goes to the Himalayas. He wants this so badly to live and continue his father's legacy and make his life meaningful, his father's life and his father's work meaningful, that he's willing to go to any extent. And that's why the first movie starts with him becoming a criminal, to understand criminals. That takes discipline, right? That takes a lot of long term vision to actually go through the pain of being a criminal, to understand criminals. So he becomes a criminal, gets arrested, he spends a lot of time in jail, then resurfaces and comes back to Gotham. The reason he does that is he wants to go all out against crime, and for that he has to be a criminal. Now, where does the discipline come in? Where he is, I think trained by Liam Neeson, right? He is the main bad guy in the movie, right? The first part. But if you notice the type of discipline he has, the type of self-control he has, he doesn't have a girlfriend, he doesn't have any guilty pleasures or even like fun. And that's Alfred's biggest complaint, that you gotta keep having fun, man, this is too serious. You're going out all night and you're really ruining it, right? That's what the part 2 shows. Like, he's so disciplined, he doesn't drink. One of the scenes where he's having this party in the penthouse, right, there is a drink offered to him, he throws it off. All he does is to show off that he's a billionaire, but he's actually very, very disciplined. Now, why is this important, and what can we learn from that? Even Batman with being a billionaire needs discipline to do what he needs to do, right? He had to be focused, and he had habits. He would wake up and work out. There is a scene where Alfred wakes him up with orange juice, I think. He just wakes up and starts doing push-ups. So you see how the discipline made Batman who he is. Batman wasn't born. He can't be Batman without the amount of discipline and the work he has put in and built his craft as a ninja, as a samurai, right? So that's the number one thing I love about Batman. He is disciplined, and he knows what his purpose is, and he's gonna do anything to achieve that purpose. And it means even like waiting for Rachel. Now, even though that's a good thing, that's a segue into the next part where I'll talk about what I think Batman he has as a weakness, like what he is not good at, like what we should not emulate from Batman, is something called one-nightitis. Like, he has a big time one-nightitis with Rachel. Now, what is one-nightitis? One-nightitis is, like this idea that somebody is so special that I'm gonna like target and design my entire life around her, which is the biggest mistake I think Batman made in part 2. It's not like he has to go and bang a lot of chicks or something like that. That's not what I mean. But I think it was his weakness, and Joker took advantage of that. He knew that this is his weakness, and he showed it, right? So there are two elements there. He showed his weakness, number one. Number two is he waited for Rachel. He waited for Rachel, and that broke him more than anything else, and he went into depression. As you can see in part 3, he goes into depression because he doesn't have a chick. He is no longer needed as a Batman because all the criminals are dead or like gone, right? So that's why it's an interesting exploration in part 3, where he becomes this old man and he's like on his stick. He carries a stick. Then he finds this new woman, and he actually starts liking her. But the thing is, I think one of the things I feel about the part 2, about that thing about being attached to that one girl, is it exposed him to more risk than he needed at that time. So I'm going to encourage you to also understand that if you are still getting over your ex, like what Batman did, if you're still like fantasizing about your ex, kind of chasing her, that is ruining your energy, and that is creating vulnerability in you. Move on, man. Find somebody else. Batman could have found Catwoman much earlier in part 2, I'm just saying, But yeah, it doesn't make for a great Hollywood script, right? So that's the whole idea of that. But in reality, that can screw you up, okay? And it did screw up Batman. So that's what I'm saying. And the final thing is about killing. I have a mixed feeling about this, like Batman loves, I mean, he doesn't love. I think Batman stands to the principle of I don't want to kill people and become a criminal just like them. I love that. I always loved that Christopher Nolan brought in that idea that Batman doesn't kill. That's amazing because if you notice, he never uses guns and never kills. And even like in the third part, Catwoman makes fun of him. Like, I think you should rethink this idea of not using guns. It may help you, right? So he always fights with this idea. Even in part when Joker makes fun of him, that you gotta break your one rule. You have to choose between Rachel and Harvey Dent, which means you have killed the other person. That's the biggest blow he has in part 2, where he actually ends up killing Rachel. He's responsible indirectly for killing Rachel because he by mistake chooses Harvey Dent, right? So he broke his one rule, and that's what like Joker, targets. He targets his weakest point, is his morals and values. Now I have mixed feelings about this because I do agree where he's coming from. He doesn't want to be like the criminals he is fighting, but at the same time it's not really effective to like use in real life like just your bare hands and your gadgets to kill criminals. It's not it's like pretty ineffective. So I want to go back to this idea of dharma and what, like, in Hindu mythology they talk about. Even a warrior is in his dharma if he's killing people because it's a battlefield and it's the right thing to do, right? If a lion is coming to kill me, I'm going to probably kill the lion or else I'll die. It's a survival thing, right? So this whole idea of Batman not killing is not practical. It's not realistic. So I just learned from that is what are some impractical things I believe in which are actually not effective, not so useful for me in my own purpose, and they are just things I have created in my head. Although I like the idea, he's idealistic person, Batman, but I also think you got to be a little more practical, right? So you got to be realist, not just idealist. So and just to add there, that's the conflict always between Gordon and I think Batman. Batman is more of idealist. Gordon is more of a realist. He even says that in part 2. So he just works with what he has. That's his dialogue, right? So you wanna look at life in a more realist ideology as well, not just idealist ideology. Okay, I don't know, just a inspiration to make a character breakdown for you guys to learn from Batman and to also like not learn from Batman and not repeat his mistakes. I hope this was useful. Drop a comment like what do you like and not like about Batman. Let's see what you guys have as answers. I'm curious. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.